Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something huge, something that touches, well, pretty much everyone.
Absolutely. It's that age-old question, isn't it?
How much money do you really need to be happy?
Yeah. And it feels like we're constantly pulled in two directions. On one hand, all the messages saying, get rich, that's fulfillment.
Buy this, achieve that, more is always better.
Exactly. But then you have this deeper, older wisdom, almost a whisper saying, hang on, money can't actually buy happiness.
That tension, it creates a lot of confusion, I think. For you listening, trying to figure out what success or even just okay really means financially.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're not going to land on some magic number.
Right, because that's impossible. The amount you need living in downtown New York versus, say, rural Iowa, wildly different.
Totally different worlds.
Yep.
So no magic number. Instead, our mission today is to help you build a framework, a way to think about sufficiency, your personal sufficiency.
Okay, so how are we doing that?
We're blending two really powerful viewpoints. We're going way back. First to ancient Greece, to Aristotle.
Okay, the philosopher?
The philosopher, yes. His ideas on the good life. And then we're jumping forward to right now looking at modern psychology, economics, the hard data.
So philosophy meets data science.
Pretty much. We want to give you the tools to define what enough means for you. And just as a little teaser, we'll be getting into Aristotle's big idea, eudaimonia, which is way more than just feeling cheerful.
Okay, intrigued already.
Well, we will tackle that famous, or maybe infamous, number from the big Princeton study. You know the one.
The $75,000 happiness plateau.
That's the one. We'll unpack what it really meant and how science has updated that idea since.
Sounds fascinating. Let's dive in. Where do we start? Ancient Greece.
Let's imagine Athens about 2,300 years ago. Aristotle isn't writing like a quick guide to feeling better. He's laying down the foundations for Western ethics in his Nicomachean Ethics.
Okay.
And his central point is that the ultimate goal for humans isn't just fleeting pleasure. It's not about chasing highs.
Which is kind of what modern culture pushes, right? The next fun thing, the next purchase.
Very much so. Aristotle was aiming higher. He called the goal eudaimonia.
You mentioned that. How do you translate it? Is it just happiness?
That's the common translation, but it honestly falls short. It's much richer. Think flourishing or a life well lived. But crucially, it's not just a feeling you have.
And not subjective.
No, Aristotle saw it as an objective state, a lifelong thing. He defined it as, get this, activity of the soul in accordance with virtue.
Activity of the soul. Okay, that sounds pretty intense. What does that mean in practice? Why isn't just, enjoying good meal or a holiday enough?
Because those things are passive and they fade. Eudaimonia requires effort. It's active. Think about his concept of telos, purpose, or function.
Telos, right.
The telos of a knife is to cut, The telos of a human, Aristotle argued, is to use our unique capacities, our reason, our ethics, our ability to connect socially to the absolute fullest over a whole lifetime.
So flourishing means actively being good, like virtuous.
Exactly. Being courageous, just, wise, temperate. It's about striving to be an excellent human being. It's constant action and growth, not a mood you just find yourself in.
Okay, I get the focus on virtue, courage, honesty, all that. But where does something as, material as money fit into this very ethical picture? He wasn't saying you should be poor, was he?
Oh, not at all. Aristotle was incredibly practical. He was clear. Money is an instrumental good.
Instrumental, meaning a tool.
Precisely. A necessary tool. A means to an end, but never the end itself. He recognized that you need certain external goods, as he called them, to even have a shot at living that virtuous life.
Okay, that makes sense. What kind of things does money enable, specifically in terms of virtue?
Well, think about it. Two big things jump out. Security and leisure.
Security and leisure.
Yeah. It's incredibly hard to focus on being brave or just if you're constantly terrified about where your next meal is coming from or if you can pay the rent.
Right. Your whole focus narrows down to survival.
Exactly. That anxiety, that constant struggle, it just consumes your mental energy. It crowds out the possibility for higher things like getting involved in your community or studying philosophy or even just having the headspace to be generous.
Generosity.
Yeah,
you can't give what you don't have.
Or even just think about giving. Money provides that essential foundation, security, and it provides time, leisure, the space needed to actually work on your character to engage with the world.
So money creates the conditions for virtue, but isn't virtue itself.
You got it. It's the soil, maybe, but not the flower.
I like that analogy. Okay, so let's bring in his most famous idea, maybe. The golden mean. Finding the balance between extremes. How does that apply to money?
This is where it gets really practical for us today. He looked at wealth and saw problems, vices on both sides. Having too little or having the wrong attitude towards what you do have.
Okay, let's start with the too little side, the deficiency. That seems obvious poverty.
Yes, poverty is the big one. Lacking the basic means for, security and dignity. Living in constant fear and struggle makes developing character incredibly difficult, as we said. But there is another side to deficiency, an internal one.
Oh.
Stinginess or avarice. This is a psychological thing. It's treating money like the ultimate goal even when you technically have enough. Hoarding it.
So you might have money, but you act as if you're poor.
Kind of. You refuse to use it for good things, refuse to be generous to friends or community. You fundamentally misunderstand that money is just a tool. That's a vice of deficiency, too.
Interesting. Okay, what about the other side? The vice of excess.
Mm.
We usually just think being super rich, but it sounds like Aristotle was more nuanced.
He was. It wasn't just about the amount, but the use or misuse of wealth. He pinpointed two main vices of excess, and honestly, they sound like they were written yesterday.
Okay, what's the first one?
Vulgarity. This isn't just having wealth, it's spending it lavishly, tastelessly, purely to show off.
Ah, conspicuous consumption. Flashing
Yeah.
the cash.
Exactly that. Throwing ridiculously over-the-top parties, buying flashy things, not because they're better, but just to signal, look how rich I am. The spending is all about them, about status, not about genuine hospitality or benefiting anyone else.
It feels very relevant. Buying the designer logo, not the quality item.
It's spending to impress, which Aristotle saw as fundamentally vain, a character flaw. The second vice of excess is maybe even more dangerous psychologically, greed, or pleonexia in Greek.
Pleonexia.
It means the insatiable desire for more.
Hmm.
Limitless accumulation. The greedy person isn't just aiming for comfort or security. They're driven by the sheer act of getting more money, more stuff.
They become slaves to it.
That's exactly the danger Aristotle saw. You become psychologically enslaved by possessions, always chasing the next zero on your net worth statement.
And the problem is that chase actively prevents the good life, the eudaimonia.
It does. Because all your time, energy, focus goes into accumulation. You neglect the things that actually build eudaimonia, your relationships, your ethical development, your intellectual life. You've mistaken the tool money for the actual goal, flourishing. You can literally never have enough because you're running towards the wrong finish line.
Wow. Okay. So deficiency is poverty and stinginess. Excess is vulgarity and greed. What's the virtuous middle path, the golden mean for wealth?
It's fundamentally about generosity.
Generosity.
Using your wealth appropriately, the right amount to the right people for the right reasons at the right time. The generous person sees money as a resource, holds it lightly, ready to use it to help friends, benefit the community, support good causes.
So not hoarding, but not splashing it around meaninglessly either. Using it thoughtfully.
Gracefully, even. And for those who were genuinely wealthy in ancient Athens, Aristotle described an even higher form of this: magnificent.
Magnificent. Sounds, well, magnificent.
It was generosity on a grand scale. Think funding a public building, sponsoring a major play, equipping a warship for the city. Big public-spirited acts. But, and this is crucial, the motivation had to be the honor of the community, not personal glory.
Ah, so it's the direct opposite of vulgarity. Vulgarity is spending big for self-aggrandizement. Magnificence is spending big for the common good.
Perfectly put. It shows the proper telos, the purpose of great wealth, to serve noble public ends, not just pile up or show off.
So, wrapping up Aristotle's view, how much money do you need? His answer is
Sufficiency. You need enough to get rid of that grinding anxiety of poverty, enough to live with dignity, enough to practice the virtues, especially generosity.
anything more than that.
It is unnecessary and potentially dangerous. It risks pulling you into the vices of greed and vulgarity. The goal is sufficiency. And that idea of sufficiency, that's exactly where the modern science picks up the thread.
Okay, let's jump forward 2,000 years. Science enters the picture, swapping philosophical arguments for, well, data. Lots of data. And the first big challenge to the more money or more happiness idea came in the 70s.
That's right, 1974 economist Richard Easterlin. And his findings became known as the Easterlin paradox. It really shook things up.
What was the paradox exactly?
Well, Easterlin confirmed something we all kind of assume. Within any country, at any given time, richer people generally report being happier than poorer people. No surprise there.
Okay, makes sense.
But here's the paradox. When he looked at entire countries over time, say The U.S. from the 1940s onwards, even though average real incomes absolutely soared, the average reported happiness level of the population barely budged. It stayed flat.
Wow. So the whole country got much richer, but not happier on average.
Pretty much. The rising tide lifted all the economic boats, but not the emotional ones, apparently.
Why? What was Easterlin's explanation for that?
His key insight was that our sense of well-being seems to be incredibly relative. We don't judge how well we're doing based on some absolute standard of comfort. We judge ourselves against, well, everyone else. Our neighbors, our colleagues, the people we see on TV.
Keeping up with the Joneses, basically.
Exactly. So if everyone's income goes up by, say, 10%, the whole frame of reference shifts. The definition of normal or doing okay just moves up with it. You might be earning more in absolute terms, but compared to your new reference point, you feel pretty much the same. Or maybe even slightly worse if you feel you're falling behind the new curve.
The goalposts just keep moving.
Constantly moving, which set the stage perfectly for the study that gave us that number everyone talks about. 2010, Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel laureate psychologist, and Angus Deaton, also a Nobel laureate economist.
Okay, the heavy hitters. What did they find?
They did something really clever. They realized we use the word happiness to mean different things, so they measured two distinct types of well-being.
Ah, okay. What were they?
First was life evaluation. This is your overall cognitive judgment about your life. If someone asks, all things considered, how satisfied are you with your life as a whole? That's life evaluation.
Like looking back and summing it all up?
Sort of. It reflects your sense of achievement, your status, where you feel you stand in the world. And they found that life evaluation does keep rising with income. Basically, the more money you make, the more successful you generally feel your life has been. No real upper limit found there.
Okay, so more money equals higher life score. But what about the other type of happiness? The day-to-day stuff?
That was the second measure, emotional well-being. This is about the quality of your actual daily experience. How often do you feel joy, stress, affection, anger, sadness? It's asking, how did you feel yesterday?
The actual texture of daily life.
Exactly. And this is where they found the plateau. Emotional well-being also rose with income, but only up to a certain point.
Which was?
Around $75,000 a year in 2010 US dollars. Beyond that threshold, having more income had virtually zero measurable effect on people's daily moods.
Zero. So someone earning $150,000 a year didn't report feeling happier day to day than someone earning $75,000.
On average, no. Their daily experience of positive and negative emotions was statistically indistinguishable once they crossed that 75K line.
So the famous 75K figure wasn't the price tag for happiness.
Exactly. It was more like the price tag for eliminating unhappiness, or at least the unhappiness caused by lack of money.
Okay. Explain that.
Think about it. What does a lack of money cause? Stress, worry, anxiety about bills, about unexpected expenses like a car repair or a medical issue. Those are major sources of negative daily emotions.
Right. Constant background hum of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. As your income rises towards that 75K threshold, you're increasingly able to handle those things. You can pay your bills, you have a cushion for emergencies, you're not constantly stressed about basic security. Money is incredibly effective at removing those sources of misery.
So it buys you out of daily financial stress.
Precisely. But once those basic security needs are met, once you have enough to navigate normal life comfortably, the power of extra money to actually boost your positive mood just disappears. More money beyond that point doesn't make your commute shorter or your difficult relationships easier or bring back a loved one. It solves the problems money can solve, and then it stops.
Okay, but I have to push back a bit here. That's $75,000. That was 2010, and it was a U.S. average. Someone listening in, say London or Sydney or San Francisco today, might hear 75K and think, that's barely scraping by. Doesn't cost of living blow that number out of the water?
That's an absolutely crucial point, and it reinforces what we said at the start. The specific number isn't the magic takeaway. The concept is.
The concept of a threshold.
Yes. The $75,000 was the average point in the U.S. in 2010, where for most people, the stress caused by lack of money significantly diminished. In a high cost of living city today, maybe that threshold is $100,000, maybe $120,000, maybe even more. It depends entirely on your circumstances.
So the study doesn't give you, the listener, your personal number.
No, but it tells you that your personal sufficiency threshold exists. There's a point for you, based on where you live and your needs, where earning more money stops significantly impacting your daily emotional well-being. And crossing that line changes the game.
Okay. And the science didn't stop in 2010, right? There's been more recent work refining this.
Yes, indeed. There was a really interesting development in 2023. It came from what they called an adversarial collaboration.
Sounds dramatic.
Well, it was Kahneman teaming up with another researcher, Matthew Killingsworth. Killingsworth had published research suggesting happiness did keep rising, maybe indefinitely, past 75 Ks. So they put their heads and their data together.
And what did they find when they combined forces?
A more nuanced picture emerged. For the majority of people, maybe around 85%, happiness actually does continue to rise with income, even well past the old 75K mark.
Oh, so the plateau was wrong.
Not exactly wrong, just incomplete. The happiness does keep rising, BUT, and this is key with diminishing returns. The extra happiness you get going from, say, 40K to 80K is huge. The extra happiness from 140K to 180K, much, much smaller. Barely noticeable even.
Okay, so diminishing marginal utility kicks in hard after a certain point. But you said the plateau idea wasn't totally gone. It still applied to some people.
Right. They found that for a specific minority group, people who are already fundamentally unhappy for reasons other than money.
Like dealing with depression or grief or major illness.
Exactly. For that group, their emotional well-being did seem to plateau, maybe closer to $100,000 in current terms. For them, more money could alleviate the financial stressors, sure, but because the root cause of their unhappiness was internal, psychological, or health-related, the extra cash just couldn't make them feel better day to day. It highlights the limits of money as a tool when the problem isn't financial.
That makes a lot of sense. So, summing up the science. Money is super powerful for getting rid of misery up to your personal enough point. After that, its ability to boost daily joy fades dramatically for most people and hits a wall for those struggling with non-financial burdens.
That's a great summary. It scientifically validates Aristotle's intuition, doesn't it? More isn't just unnecessary beyond sufficiency. It doesn't actually deliver the goods emotionally, while exposing you to those vices of excess he warned about.
It really does connect. Okay, before we dig into why excess wealth often fails to deliver that happiness, the psychological traps, just a quick pause. If you're finding this conversation helpful, if it's making you think about your own relationship with money and happiness, we'd be really grateful if you'd take a second to subscribe to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, maybe leave us a comment or a review. Knowing what resonates with you, what questions you have, it genuinely helps us shape future deep dives. Plus, it helps other people find the show when they're searching for these kinds of discussions.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being here. Okay, so we've got Aristotle's sufficiency and the scientific data pointing to a similar threshold. Now let's talk about why chasing wealth far beyond that point often doesn't lead to more happiness. What are the psychological mechanisms at play?
Right. We need to understand the why. And it really comes down to a couple of core features of human psychology, things that, again, Aristotle seemed to grasp intuitively when he warned about excess.
And the first one is probably familiar to many listeners, even if they don't know the name. The hedonic adaptation treadmill.
Ah, yes, the treadmill. It's a fundamental aspect of our psychology. We humans are incredibly good at adapting to changes in our circumstances, both good and bad. We have the sort of emotional baseline we tend to return to.
So something great happens. You get a big promotion, you buy your dream house,
Yeah.
you feel amazing for a while.
Exactly. You get that initial spike of joy, that dopamine rush. But then surprisingly quickly, weeks, maybe months, that new reality just becomes normal. The bigger salary is just your salary. The amazing house is just where you live. It gets absorbed into your baseline.
The novelty wears off.
Completely. And the classic, maybe slightly depressing example is lottery winners.
Right, I've heard about those studies. They win millions, and then...
Studies going back decades found that often within a year or 18 months, their self-reported happiness levels were basically back to where they started, sometimes even lower, if the money caused new problems like relationship conflicts.
So they adapted to having millions, just like they adapted to everything else.
Pretty much. The initial thrill faded, and this forces you onto that treadmill. Just to maintain that baseline feeling of okayness, you feel like you need another positive change, another raise, another purchase. You have to keep running just to stay in the same emotional place.
So money buys excitement, maybe, but not lasting contentment, because our brains are just built to normalize things.
That seems to be the mechanism. And it connects directly to the second big psychological trap, which builds on the Easterlin paradox we talked about. The endless cycle of social comparison.
Ah, the keeping up with the Joneses instinct again.
It's incredibly powerful. We are social creatures, deeply wired to assess our standing relative to others. A huge part of our satisfaction often comes not from what we have in absolute terms, but from how we perceive our rank within our peer group.
And the big problem here is that as soon as you start succeeding financially, your peer group changes, right?
That's the trap. It perfectly illustrates Aristotle's vice of vulgarity driven by status. Say you're earning $70,000. Your comparison group might be colleagues, neighbors in a certain area. You get a big jump to $250,000. What happened?
You'll probably move.
Mm.
Maybe to a fancier neighborhood, different school for the kids, maybe a different social scene.
Exactly. And suddenly your old car feels a bit shabby next to your new neighbor's luxury SUV. Your perfectly nice house seems modest. Your reference point, the Joneses you're comparing yourself to, has automatically shifted upwards. Your internal definition of enough or doing well recalibrates instantly, often without you even noticing.
So you're never there. You're constantly chasing a target that moves as soon as you get close.
That's the cycle. You shift from using money to meet genuine needs or add real comfort to using it primarily to maintain your perceived status within this new, more affluent circle. It becomes about signaling, not substance.
And that's basically the definition of Aristotle's pleonexia. You mentioned earlier that insatiable desire for more driven by looking outwards instead of inwards.
It fits perfectly, and it's doomed to make you anxious, not content, because guess what? There's always someone richer. There's always a bigger house, a faster car, a more exclusive club. You can never actually win the comparison game.
The moment your goal becomes status instead of security or purpose,
Yeah.
you're lost.
You've stepped off the path to eudaimonia, as Aristotle would say. And think about the cost. All the time, energy and money poured into that status race, resources that could have been used for things that actually build well-being, like generosity, learning, relationships, leisure. It gets diverted into this zero-sum game of comparison.
Which explains why studies sometimes show very wealthy people can be just as stressed or even more stressed than people with moderate incomes. They're just stressed about bigger, more expensive status maintenance problems.
Exactly. The nature of the anxiety shifts, but it doesn't necessarily decrease.
Okay, so no magic number. Sufficiency is key. And we're wired with these psychological traps, hedonic adaptation and social comparison, that make chasing excess wealth a poor strategy for happiness. So the practical question becomes, how do you listening actually figure out your personal golden mean? That sweet spot.
Right. Since it's personal, it requires self-reflection. The goal is to define that point where money has done its main job reducing misery, providing security, and is now positioned to actively support your flourishing, your eudaimonia.
So where do we start with that self-reflection?
I think the first step is a kind of financial triage. You need to look at your spending, not just in terms of amounts, but in terms of purpose, through that Aristotelian lens we discussed. Is this helping me flourish, or is it pulling me towards a vice?
Okay, triage. Like in an emergency room, sorting by priority. What are the categories?
Let's break it down into 3. 1, needs, the security foundation. These are the absolute non-negotiables. Secure housing, healthy food, essential healthcare, reliable transport to work, and, crucially, building that emergency fund buffer.
The stuff that stops the constant worry.
Exactly. Money spent here has the highest possible return on well-being because it directly tackles that anxiety and stress that defines the misery zone. This is about building your mode of security. Priority number 1.
Got it. Needs first. What's next?
2. Wants, the comfort components. This is the stuff beyond basic survival that genuinely makes life more enjoyable or easier. Things like vacations, hobbies you love, maybe dining out sometimes, choosing to live in a safer or more convenient neighborhood.
So these are good things, but they need more thought.
Yes, intentionality is key here. These can be excellent instrumental goods. But you need to ask, is this want adding real lasting value to my life? Or is it just a fleeting pleasure I'll adapt to quickly? Is it something I truly value? Or am I just feeling pressured to want it? The aim is high leverage comfort, things that really enhance your quality of life long term.
Okay, needs, wants, and the third category must be the danger zone.
3, desires, the status trap. This is where we often get into trouble. This spending is usually driven less by genuine need or comfort and more by that social comparison engine.
Like?
Luxury brands bought for the label, not the quality. Living in a specific zip code purely for the status it confers. Over-the-top displays of wealth. Status symbols you barely use, like maybe a fancy sports car that sits in the garage or a huge vacation home that's empty most of the year.
This is where money's happiness buying power really drops off.
Falls off a cliff. And here you have to think about the opportunity cost. Every dollar spent on a status desire is a dollar not spent on securing needs, funding truly valuable wants, buying back your time, or being generous, all things with a much higher well-being return. You have to scrutinize these desires ruthlessly.
Okay, so triage helps classify.
Yeah.
But how do we make those choices within the wants and desires categories? How do we make it personal?
That brings us to step 2, which is crucial. Connect spending to your core values. Forget just listing things you want to buy. Start by thinking about who you want to be, what truly matters to you.
Like, I value learning, or I value family time, or I value health.
Precisely. Identify your 3 to 5 core values. Maybe it's community, creativity, adventure, calm, contribution. Then, those values become the filter through which you look at every significant financial choice.
So money becomes a tool to live out your values.
Yes. It transforms financial planning from this restrictive budgeting exercise into an empowering act of designing your life. It gives your financial decisions meaning and purpose.
Can you give some examples? How does that look day to day?
Sure. If your top value is health, then enough money clearly needs to cover things that support that. Maybe a gym membership, good quality food, excellent preventative health care, maybe even therapy or coaching. If you value learning, enough might mean setting aside funds for courses, books, travel that broadens your horizons, maybe even saving for a sabbatical.
Okay, I see.
If family connection is paramount, enough might look like prioritizing a home large enough for gatherings, or saving aggressively so one parent can work less while kids are young, or funding regular family trips. When your spending directly enables you to live your values, the psychological return is enormous.
That makes budgeting sound almost inspiring.
It can be. It's about aligning your resources with what you claim to care about most.
Okay, values alignment. What's next? Is there guidance on what kind of spending within those values gives the most happiness, bang for the buck?
There is. Step 3 comes from robust psychological research, particularly by Dr. Thomas Wilovich. Prioritize experiences over possessions.
The buy experiences, not things advice. Why does that work so well?
Several reasons. First, experiences tend to become part of our identity more than possessions do. Your trip to Italy, learning to play guitar, running a marathon, those become stories you tell, part of who you are. A new sofa, not so much.
Right. Experiences shape us.
Second, we adapt more slowly to experiences. The joy from an amazing trip lingers in memory much longer than the thrill of a new gadget. And third, experiences are less prone to that toxic social comparison. It's harder to be envious of someone's unique personal memory than it is to covet their bigger TV. Experiences often connect us to others. Possessions can sometimes isolate us.
So invest in doing, not just having. Okay, what else?
Step 4 is about buying something incredibly precious, something often overlooked. Buy back your time.
Time. The ultimate luxury.
Increasingly, yes. Many people, especially working parents or busy professionals, suffer from what researcher Ashley Willens calls time poverty. They have enough money, maybe, but zero time or energy left over.
I know that feeling.
Her research is fascinating. It shows a really strong link. People who spend money to outsource tasks they dislike or find stressful, they report significantly higher life satisfaction and better daily emotional well-being.
So paying for a cleaner. Getting groceries delivered. Using a lawn service.
Exactly. Things that free up your time and mental energy. Think about it. Those chores are often small, nagging sources of daily stress. Using money instrumentally to eliminate them frees up hours you can then spend on things that do align with your values, exercising, playing with your kids, working on a passion project, or simply resting.
It's using money to directly reduce hassle and increase quality time. That seems like a very high leverage use of funds once your needs are met.
Arguably one of the highest. It's converting money directly into well-being minutes and hours.
Needs, values, experiences, time. What's the final piece of the framework?
The final step brings us right back to where we started with Aristotle. Embrace pro-social spending. Generosity.
And modern science backs this up too.
Absolutely. Work by Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton, among others, is really clear on this.
What do they find?
Consistently, spending money on others or donating to causes provides a bigger and more lasting boost to happiness than spending that same amount on yourself.
Really? Bigger than buying something nice for yourself?
Yes. It seems counterintuitive in our consumer culture, but the data is strong. Doesn't matter if it's big or small. Buying a coffee for the person behind you, donating $20 to a food bank, buying a thoughtful gift for a friend, these acts reliably increase positive feelings.
Why do you think that is?
It likely taps into several things. It strengthens our social connections, which are vital for well-being. It reinforces a positive self-image. I am a kind, generous person. And it connects us to a sense of purpose larger than ourselves. By intentionally building generosity into your financial plan, you're directly investing in your own eudaimonia.
Wow. Needs, values, experiences, time, generosity. That feels like a really solid, actionable framework.
It moves beyond just tracking dollars and cents and focuses on how money can genuinely serve a well-lived life.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We started with the big question. How much money do you need to be happy? We journeyed through ancient philosophy and modern data.
And the answer that emerges consistently from both sides, it isn't a number.
The answer is enough.
Enough. And defining that enough is the real work. It's a profoundly personal, philosophical task.
And enough means what exactly? What are the qualities of sufficiency?
It means having enough for security, that foundation that quiets the anxiety. Enough for dignity, to participate fully in your community. Enough for opportunity and good health. Enough for freedom, having the time and the means to pursue things that genuinely matter to you, aligned with your values.
And crucially,
And enough to be generous, to look beyond yourself and contribute to the well-being of others and your community. That's a vital part of flourishing.
finding that personal golden mean, that balance point where you've beaten deficiency but haven't fallen into the traps of excess, that really does feel like the ultimate goal here.
It is, because achieving that personal sufficiency, truly internalizing what enough means for you, it sets you free.
Free from.
Free from the endless chase, free from the anxiety of comparison, free from obsessing about money itself. It allows you to shift your focus entirely to the real task, the active, challenging, rewarding art of living well, the pursuit of eudaimonia.
And that, perhaps, is the greatest wealth anyone can achieve.
I truly believe it is.